That's very creepy.
Thank you.
Friends from Fright School. This will be the creepiest episode yet. Cue the music. So, we've been in kind of a creepy headspace working on. Well, that's why Brad has shaved his beard for
I
one.
look weird. I won't lie. I feel like I look like a creepy dude.
And probably by the time this comes out, we'll have. Well, we're shooting stuff tonight for it, so maybe we'll have like a picture of what you look like. It's actually for a music video for a song that I'm releasing soon. I'm sure that'll be that information will be out by the time this comes out too. So it's a nice creepy little video. So we've been getting into a creepy headspace, and then the light in our prop room keeps flickering, which is also putting us in a creepy headspace.
Oh, we're 100% sure that Luke's house is haunted. Like, because it's not the first light that flickered in there. Like, that one's connected directly to the power and it's flickering, but everything else is fine. And then there was another light that was standalone that was like this little arrow thing. It was flickering.
It was a battery operated thing. We finally took the batteries out and it still flickered. No, I'm just kidding. It stopped flickering. It stopped flickering when we took the batteries out. But today we're going to talk about ghost stories, and then hopefully find our way into horror movies. First off, what are you guys' thoughts? Let's find out where everybody stands on, do ghosts exist? Do you believe in ghosts? Ellis?
Yeah, I think that they can exist, but I don't know. Mine's pretty in-depth, so I'll get your guys' responses first.
Okay.
But yes.
Brad, you want to go?
I think I'm a little bit more on the skeptical side. I think
That's good. We need a skeptic here.
I think the paranormal does exist in a way, but I don't think it's like the souls and spirits of people are trapped in like houses and stuff like that.
You think more like it's a like an imprint of some kind of like energy left over or something. Like, say something really violent happened somewhere. Is there something left there that's not necessarily that person as a ghost, but like some sort of like memory almost that's trapped there? Like, you know what I mean? Like
I get what
it's
you mean.
Replaying something
I
from
still
time.
don't know if I would agree with that per se, but
Okay.
like I think stuff I don't know if it's like fit in with a certain location or space, you know. But
So you think that they can exist, but they're not tied to a location?
sure, yeah. I guess.
So
Okay.
okay. I think I think there's something to it because of all the ghost stories that are out there. I've got a bunch to share today. I pretty much went hard in the paint interviewing people last night. Literally, I called my mom. She told me a bunch of cool stuff. Carrie told me some stuff. My dad was texting me the story. And there's just experiences they've had. I've never really had an encounter myself. I've had some creepy things that I can talk about from my parents' house, but yeah, I feel like I'm on the side of like I'm like a, you know, the X-Files, like I want to believe like science. I'm like that. I want to believe in everything because I'm so intrigued by the idea of aliens, the idea of whatever. So ghosts are one of those things that I feel like I want to believe, but I'm also a lot of times my rationale takes over and I'm like, I can easily poke holes in it. Like when you were telling us those videos you watched that were really scary at night, we watched them the next day. We were like, well, this would be
Now,
pretty
there's
easy.
some pretty scary ones, though, that seem like I can't find a cut in. And then some of them you're like, oh, going back, you're like, yeah, there's a cut there, there's a cut there.
Exactly. You
Those are super funny watching back because I felt like
if you watch them at night with all the lights off, you're like, whoa.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that what you're saying there might speak to what happens to most ghost encounters are because of that. It's at night. Your mind plays tricks on you. Your eyes will play tricks on you in the dark. So there's, I think, a lot of instances where probably most ghost encounters are not, and I think they even say that, even the people that are believing it 100% say like most of them aren't real. Like most alien encounters aren't real. But there might be some that are, where it's like undeniable. But a lot of times it's
is that like coming from a statistical point where it's like,
well, because I don't know if they have like
everyone-
100% of proof anyways, even if the ones they think are real. But I think they say most of them, I guess most of them are debunked or whatever.
Gotcha.
Now, here's a thought, because I was talking to a family member about this. What if it's like a ghost or just spirits? Okay, so your afterlife is what you perceive it is going to be.
Okay.
So,
it's kinda
let's roll with that.
You're saying whatever you believe in this life,
Yes, is what your reality becomes when you pass.
Wait, what? So if I die and I'm thinking of
You're
living on a beach, I'm living on a beach. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying
I think he's saying your belief, whatever your belief
let's
is.
let's say you're like,
Okay.
I'm going to sing hymns and worship the Lord for all eternity.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's your reality.
You're floating on clouds.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, if you don't believe, what if your spirit is just, can basically fly and free float through the earth, and you can just basically just fly around and travel? So what if ghost stories are really just spirits that have passed on that are just flying around,
traveling
and
through?
Maybe they're going back and they're watching after people that they cared about when they were younger, or older family members.
That's a common thing you hear about. When I was sort of reading some stuff, it's like a lot of times it's the ghost. They're trying to help a lot of times, apparently. But you got to realize, if you're a ghost, you can scare the crap out of somebody, you know?
I do it because it's funny.
Or see, I wonder about that too. Like, does a ghost have the personality they had in life? And if so, here's what really I think is the weirdest thing about ghost stories, and then we'll start getting into some of the stories, I guess. But I heard one yesterday about this guy who I guess was kind of like haunting this girl or something, but he had on like 80s short shorts and like, cause he was killed riding a bicycle apparently. And I just feel like, are you wearing what you wore when you died? And like, why? Like, why do you have clothes that are like, I don't know. I guess it's just a weird idea.
Do ghosts have like cliques? Do they like form cliques? They're like, don't talk to that ghost. Look at what he was wearing when he died.
It just seems
I think it's like, if ghosts exist, it's Casey Affleck watching you eat pie for
five and a half minutes. Yeah, that's from the movie A Ghost Story. Is it a ghost story? A Ghost Story, whatever. Very long scene where she eats pie and he's watching her in the background.
That's a callback to an earlier episode.
Yeah.
Only real fans would get that.
That's right. I think some of the stuff that I have to talk about I might have mentioned before, but I'm gonna like go over it again because we'll have it all here in the ghost episode, I guess. So you have some stories,
yes,
right? I'll start with something because I have several that I can go over. Let's see, which one should I start with? All right, so why don't we start with my dad's story? So he was when he was a kid. He said he was like around 5, so this is very young. There was a girl that lived across the street from him. She was really sick, like terminally ill, sick, and I think they had gone over there probably to see her that day or night or something. But he went to sleep one night, and he says he woke up and she was like floating outside of his window, and apparently trying to like come in. And he screamed and like freaked out, threw something at the window, and the next morning, he like when he wakes up or whatever, I guess he went back to sleep. I don't know.
They announced she had passed.
She had passed away that night. And even when I was a kid, from like when my grandma was still alive and we'd go visit her in that room, that painted glass was still busted where he had thrown something. It was like all taped up,
wow.
you know. So that something really, he had a physical reaction. So if it was a dream, he woke up and threw something, or he was sleepwalking or whatever. Or kids. Sometimes people think about kids being closer to that side.
I was going to mention that.
The veil's a little thinner or whatever.
So did he mention to his family beforehand that he had witnessed this before they had told him that she had passed?
I don't know.
I wonder what the timing was on that. But going back to him being a kid, now just hear me out.
Okay.
So let's say you die.
Okay.
All right.
And
I got you.
Okay, so imagine you've died and you're a spirit floating around or whatever. Now, you can stay as a spirit as long as you want. She was probably had just died. She's like, oh, let me go check on all the people I care about, especially young kids or whatever.
Right.
Now, whenever you're in this like whole spirit world or zone, if you go and like let's say you're like reborn and like you are like you've been reborn or whatever, right?
As a spirit?
Let's say like you become a human again.
Oh,
you're like,
okay.
I'm tired of flying around forever.
Okay,
I'm going to go get reborn.
Like you're reincarnated.
Yeah, you're reincarnated or something. Since you had just been a spirit and you're still so close to have been born or whatever, what if you can still like physically like see the veil, but as you go through life, it just becomes more and more diluted and harder to see. So if you're a kid, and like you had just been like reborn, maybe it is easier to like see the veil,
Right.
and
Well,
like that's why he could see her.
even without the sort of reincarnation side of it, like people often cite that, or they think that children can, that I guess because they haven't had all of the reality and rationale like forced on them throughout life yet. You know what I mean? Every year you get a little more skeptical about everything, a little more, you start finding out so many things you believed as a kid weren't true,
Yeah.
And it's like, I think, maybe that is the argument for a kid being able to see something that's, maybe it's just, and let's not, even if it's whatever, let's say it's another, there's got to be other planes of existence or something that we just can't see. You know what I mean? It's just like, there's spectrums of light we can't see,
But how would there be
there's frequencies
so many...
we can't hear. So maybe there's something there, and they're just closer. They haven't had the things that like have sort of brainwashed it out of them to not be able to
But
see
they're
it.
kids. How are there like so many accounts of these like really young kids all seeing like and describing the same thing, like spectral figures, ghosts, like
Well, that's
people
what I'm
that they
saying.
used to know. So it's like there's definitely something there.
That's what I'm saying. It's because they haven't gone through life yet and like lost that, I guess,
The
ability.
So you're saying it's more so the imagination, so to say?
Well, I
that's
think
more-
maybe they're really seeing it. It's just
Uh-huh.
that they haven't. It's just as you get older, it's like an ability you
stop
lose
looking
or
for it.
something. I don't know. So then, Brad, skeptical side
Okay.
of what happened to his story, of my dad's story. What do you think? What's the rationale of what could have happened if it's, say, not a ghost?
I mean, I could see it being a dream. I could believe that he could feel something or get a sense that she passed, and something in his subconscious is telling him. I believe that stuff like that can happen.
Right,
you
almost
know?
like a
Sixth sense.
Right, you get a
Yeah. He sees dead people.
intuition. You get
your dad's a Hallie Joel Osment.
You're talking about like an intuition. sort of.
Yeah, and maybe it kind of manifested in his dream,
Right.
so to speak, and it felt like reality. That's kind of how I interpreted it as hearing the story. That, and I guess to him, I could believe that it felt real, but I don't know.
Right.
Being skeptical, I don't know if I
Yeah.
believe the ghost would actually be there. But that's pretty interesting that he like threw it
Like a physical object.
Like there's something that like you said, even to when you were a child and still going over there, like you could see the
In that back
remnants
bedroom.
of that.
Right. Yeah. There was still something left over in the physical, tangible world, whether he was in a dream state or not.
What did he throw at it again?
I don't know what he threw.
I wonder if
Yeah.
he just had like a just bucket of rocks on standby.
Yeah, probably because he was a kid growing up in the South back in those days. I mean, he was probably throwing rocks all the time. So
Just like a trusty rocks.
okay, so let's keep moving then. Well, let me go ahead and I'll talk about what my mom saw as well, and then we'll
Okay.
go to your story. That way, we'll do both of my parents' kind of stories here. So my mom's
What
is
if your mom saw the same kid?
she didn't know her or something.
Yeah.
So my mom's story is a little different because it's not quite as much a ghost, I guess, but it could be. I'll see what you think. Essentially, she's told me this story several times, and I called her yesterday, and I was talking to her about it. She hasn't thought about it in years, and she didn't even remember that she had told me. But she was about 8 or 10 years old, and she swears when she was going to bed, I think, or maybe she woke up, but she was in the bed one night. She looks up above her, and she sees what she describes as what you would typically think of as an angel above her bed. And I always pictured this like on the ceiling, sort of. It scared me a little more when she was telling me last night, because she was like, no, it was like I could have reached out and touched it. So it's like this thing's hovering over your face. But she's always had this like I guess claustrophobia and like this sort of suffocation fear, and it might stem from this. She feels like, she said that it's almost felt like suffocating because it was over her so, and the wingspan was gigantic, so it was huge. I think they were even moving, she thought. I asked her a million questions about, like, could she see a face, was there a body, was there like arms and legs. She had a hard time remembering that. The wings were kind of the most obvious thing that she could remember, but she did say it was sort of, it had like sort of a glow, like a white glow to it. But
you saying like, did she see a face? Have y'all seen those memes where it's like angels in the Bible and it says do not be afraid, and then it shows like these pictures of like drawings of what angels
Yes.
look like, and it's a bunch of eyes. You know,
It's
there's
horrifying.
like certain descriptions where they're just super terrifying.
Okay, well
looking.
that's a good point, because that's how she felt. It wasn't this like angelic feeling. It
Yeah.
was mortifying. It was. I mean,
It's not Fabio with angel wings.
Omnipresent, like
it's like scarred her for life kind of fear. It's like, oh my, this is terrifying. She goes under the covers to hide
And you,
from it.
and you reopen this.
I opened the wound. Yeah, but and the more we talked, the more she was like, I think I've had multiple encounters with it over my life, but I hadn't really thought about it till now. There's been other times where she thinks this thing has like visited her.
God, that's scary.
I know. So and so, what? I'll ask your thoughts first, I guess.
Well, it reminds me of that Tooth Fairy movie, but I guess that's aside. You know, the one where you always had to keep the lights on, or it would like.
Was it a horror?
Yeah, it was a horror movie.
Oh, I don't remember that. But that's
like
scary.
if you looked at the Tooth Fairy's face, then it would like kill you, but it could only kill you in the dark. So
I
you had to
have
sleep.
never
You've never
heard
seen
of
that
that.
movie?
No.
Okay, I'll have to show you guys that later.
Yeah.
But that's what it reminds me of. Anyways, that could be sleep paralysis, but if she's seen it multiple times, I don't know why it's following her. Apparently, everyone has a guardian angel, but your guardian angel doesn't have to be an a-hole and like scare the crap out of you
Yeah.
every all the time.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it is.
Yeah, did she feel like she knew why?
No. And I also, it's like, it did scare her. So it's like, could it have been more malevolent, a demon? That's, a more malevolent force that was masquerading as sort of an angel,
Now-
which is stuff you hear about a lot. And even,
I can't remember. I think I've heard stories, but don't demons like follow you if they become attached to you? So like it's not attached to a location, but it's like the person.
oh no.
I think
Don't tell my mom.
I've read about that before, where it like will follow you.
Well, and it's an interesting thought too, because even a lot of Christians don't really believe in angels, or they just don't really think about the idea of angels existing,
That's
right?
what I was gonna
It's
say,
sort of
yeah.
like a side of Christianity they don't talk about as much.
Yeah, same thing with demons,
Yeah.
But there's some scripture, I think, that I don't know. I would have to do some research about what you were talking about.
Following?
Yeah, because there's parts in Matthew that talks about like the binding of the strong man and stuff, and that's like talking about a demon.
Whoa.
Or like spirits, even if it's like the spirit of addiction and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know, because I think that's, for me, it's more so the demonic, angelic, that side. Like and even in the Bible, like ghosts happen when
Right.
Jesus,
like Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Force Ghost.
Yeah,
Makes
Force
sense.
Ghost.
He was in the Bible, right?
Yeah, Book of Mark. No, so
Or the
it's
Book
like,
of Luke, I guess. Luke
yeah,
Skywalker.
that was the better joke. But it's like when
Wait, but Mark Hamill. Dang, that worked too. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
but what I was saying is like when you bring up ghosts, but I don't know, like from a biblical standpoint, which is where I fall. Ghost
Seem counterintuitive to biblical to
may-
scripture, sort
a
of.
little bit, but it's like it happens like when Jesus died and through the time between in the tomb and resurrection. I think it's the book of Matthew. If not, it's the book of Luke. But it talks about the dead walking the streets of Jerusalem. So, there's instances of that. The transfiguration, when he showed his heavenly side, he brings back Moses and Elijah, which are people from way far ago.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like,
And were they I guess we don't really know. Were they in like physical form, or were they ghosts or something?
I think they recognized them
Okay.
the way it's described. So that's where I'm kind of like, I don't know if ghost, and obviously we were talking about this with Frankenstein the other day. We have an idea of Frankenstein's monster based off of the 1930s version of Boris Karloff or whatever his name is, of the flat head and green body, the peg sticking out. But
Right.
it's like the original book, he's long hair, much taller, skinnier, lankier, doesn't really have like stark green skin.
No.
So it's like, when I think of ghosts, I think of either, the floating body, or like translucent, but I don't know if ghosts even exist do they even look like that, or
Right.
could they look like normal human beings? You
Now-
know?
Right.
Here's a scary thought.
Okay.
Let's say you died, and
I feel like you're really
No.
pushing
There's
for
a theme
this.
here.
okay, but you're a ghost. As a ghost, if you're in like this spiritual realm, does that
Okay.
mean that now you can see angelic creatures and demonic creatures? So what if it's like, if you fly over like, what's it called, the Annabelle house or whatever, are you going to see with your eyes a demon that lives there, and can that demon or angel now interact with you because you're in this spirit realm that they are in?
If ghosts exist or whatever, I mean, I think that kind of makes
Yeah.
sense. Also, I'm picking up that Ellis's favorite idea of being a ghost is flying around.
That would be really cool.
That would be cool. I agree
I
with
think
that.
that if Ellis, it was like he dies and it's like the option for eternal like peace and the
He's-
happiness. He's like, nah, dude, I'm staying on Earth.
Dude, I'd fly around.
I'm
I'd be
flying
like,
around,
that'd
y'all.
be cool.
And messing with people.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
In some short shorts.
I'm gonna prank. Yeah, I'm gonna wear my short shorts and prank people for all eternity.
Who's this? Look behind you. He's in short shorts.
It's like, and then you die and you go into the afterlife and you see Ellis has a famous TV show like Punk'd.
Yeah.
He's the Ashton Kutcher. He's the Ashton Kutcher of the afterlife. That's awesome. Okay, so all
That's
right.
funny.
So I asked her a lot of stuff about could she have been dreaming, and she was just like, I guess so, but it felt so real, and
That's the tough thing too. Is I think the easy thing, and I'm curious with the other stories you have. It's like the easiest thing to go. You're like everyone's asleep in bed.
yeah, those
so
two
far.
were in the night. Yeah,
So you can go, oh, they were dreaming, and sometimes dreams
It could be
feel
sleep paralysis.
super real.
but to go back to biblical things, how often were people visited in their dreams,
true. Yeah,
right,
yeah,
with
yeah.
a message
Yeah.
from an angel
Yeah.
or whatever?
Well, can't like demons like take the form of an angel or something and like pretend?
that was the sound of a ghost. Sorry, go ahead.
Can demons?
No, yeah, can't demons like take the form of like a angel or something? So it's like masquerading as like some sort of angelic creature, but
I don't know. I mean, again, biblically, a lot of times demons were fallen angels,
Right.
So
Isn't that a lot of times like they talk about though, like I guess like Satan, like I guess masquerading as even his name, right? Like Lucifer being like the bringer of
beautiful one or
bringer
something.
of light or so. Or no, maybe it's not that. Maybe it was just the beautiful one. Something about light though, isn't it? But at any rate, like
know.
couldn't he? Wasn't it often that he? It's often like talked about him. I guess. I guess almost like tricking you, like
Yeah,
making
yeah.
you think that he's
it's
either
a
making you think he's
possibility,
God, like
yeah,
you know what I mean, like you think you're hearing the voice of God or something, or even if it's just even like you think the God's like nudging you to do something, but maybe it's not. Maybe you're hearing something more evil.
I don't know. There's a lot to unpack there, honestly,
Yeah.
for like this whole what she saw and like
Yeah.
what it could be.
Yeah.
It could just be sleep paralysis. It could just be
Right.
she was
Do you
dreaming.
believe in sleep paralysis demons? I had a roommate in college who
I mean,
apparently had one.
I've had sleep paralysis
I
a
have
lot.
too. It's the worst.
It's so miserable. One of my stories, I guess, is kind of related to sleep paralysis, but I don't. You mean like? I guess is that
I don't
the
know.
idea? There's
I don't
demons
know.
that
Yeah.
most people that have sleep paralysis will talk about these figures around their bed.
yeah, because I saw stuff when I had sleep paralysis,
Really?
and so then I went and found my dog and was like, "You're sleeping with me the rest of the night."
Yeah.
Like whenever I was
Yeah.
like out of it.
It was funny because that roommate, he didn't tell me for months, because when we had moved into our dorms, like it happened. He said it hadn't happened since he was like a kid or something. And when he was like, I don't want to tell my roommate and freak him out, and
Yeah.
so it was like 3 or 4 months later, and I think it just came up, and I was like,
And you were like, "No, dude, that was me. I was getting some food in the night.
I was
in
just
your
looking
fridge.
at you. While
I was hungry last night." Okay, you want to tell some of your stuff now?
Yeah, I can. Let's see.
Ellis goes, I'm a ghost.
I am a ghost.
All of a sudden, he's like translucent.
I just fly away.
Kids see
For a
ghosts
while.
sometimes. Kids see ghosts
I'd be like, "You just got
sometimes."
pranked as I fly."
Dude, that's a long con prank. We've known you for years, man.
all of a sudden these like ghost cameramen appear. What? Okay, tell us about the house you grew up in.
Yeah. So like whenever I think of this house, it's always an uncomfortable feeling, even though it was like the nicest house I've ever stayed in, like lived in. It was like 6 or 7 stories.
How old was it?
Hold on. 6 or 7 stories?
Yeah.
What? Was it a hotel?
No. Well, I should say 6 or 7 floors.
Still. That's so many floors. So the basement was one of them.
Yes, that was the creepiest basement I've ever seen in my life. And like whenever there were tornado like threats, we had to stay in there, and it freaked me out.
What age were you in that house?
From the time that I can remember until 7th grade.
Okay.
So like
Pretty much your whole adolescence.
yes.
All right.
So every time I think of the house, it's like super uncomfortable. And like I always have nightmares of the house. I've never had any pleasant dreams about it. It's only associated with nightmares whenever it, and like every nightmare happens at this house.
Well, you know, and my mom was telling me about her thing. Often when she dreams about her being a kid or what, she dreams about that house that she grew up in, the one where she saw the angel or whatever. So it's like,
but she's lived in multiple houses.
Yeah, it's like you go back to that as a lot of times in your dreams.
See, for me, I grew up in one house, so
yeah,
it'd be like, duh, I'm going back to that house.
Yeah.
So I guess starting off, when I was like in the crib, this is like one of the only memories I remember.
In the crib?
Yes, and I don't know why I remember this.
I can't believe you can remember that far back.
Yes, I think it's just because it was so freaky and like weird, and I didn't understand what was happening, but I just have this memory where like I was in the crib, and then like there was another baby there, and I'm the only child.
Okay.
That's there. My younger brother hadn't been born yet. So I'm in the crib sleeping or whatever. My mom would always like put on this music or whatever that was like, it's kind of creepy in hindsight, but it was like this like lullaby music to put you to sleep.
Was it a thing that spun?
There was a thingy that spun.
Okay.
Thinking that spun.
What do you call those?
I don't know. It had like the shapes and stuff that would spin around.
I know.
Dang.
There's a name for it.
Yeah. All right, carry on.
But there was another baby, and the baby helped. I'm a infant. It helped me climb out of the crib. So like I was like using it to climb up and out of the crib, and then climb down the other side. And I legit started crawling out of the room, like just going down the hall.
And
just crawling.
And there's no way you could have gotten
I'm probably like 1 or maybe 2 years old, something like that.
There's no way you could have gotten out on your own?
No. I don't know how I would have done it. I think I was like 2 or 3 in that age.
I was about to say 1 and you're having that memory?
No.
That's crazy.
Because I was from when I was born, it was another house, and then they moved when I was like 1.
So when you say baby, it's like a toddler. Like
kind of. I'm like 2, something like that.
The other kid, the ghost kid, was it like your age?
It was almost like another version of me that was kind of faceless, or at least I can't remember the face.
Yeah.
But
and it was like
it like helped me crawl out. No, it was more like it was standing on top.
Stand on my
prison escape.
It was almost like it was standing on top, and it was reaching down, and like I was like pulling up, and I just like pulled myself up. It wasn't like doing like the lift or whatever.
So here's the question.
I was thinking about The Last of Us or something.
No, it's not like that.
Come on, I'll help you up.
But I ended up crawling out, and then like it was either my brother or my mom that just like found me just crawling out and went and put me back into the crib, and I was like, dang it, I almost got out.
So here's my question. Like, you could ask your mom about that today, and she'd be like, oh, that happened.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And you were they not like, wow, how did you get out of your crib?
I don't know. I was like 2.
Okay.
But
you go, hey, yo, ma. Why?
Okay, hey, why you put me back in the crib?
So you think and this thing looked like a child.
Yeah.
It wasn't tall enough to be standing outside of the crib and pick you up?
No. I literally, like, it felt like it was standing on top of the crib, reaching down, and I would reach up, and I would just pull myself up, and it was like I had the strength to just pull myself up.
It could have been floating.
Maybe. I was young. I didn't know any better. I was just like, I'm going to get out of this crib. I don't want to be here.
What I'm thinking is a crib, like the edge of a crib would be hard to stand on.
Yeah.
You know? But I guess if you're a ghost and you can defy physics and gravity.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, and like it just felt like I had like the strength to pull myself out, and I just didn't want to go to sleep. I didn't want to be in the crib, and the thing just helped me get out.
Did you ever see this baby ghost again?
That's the only like memory I have of that one. Another creepy thing though is the house is in this valley, and everyone who lived in Dawsonville or at least the locals will know about it. It was like an old like dip or valley that used to be like Indian reservations and stuff, and like Indian people used to live there, right?
Native Americans.
Yeah. And
nomenclature, man.
we ended up digging out a pool at this house. So later on in life, I'm like, I don't know, like 7 or 8, we get a pool and dig into the earth, make a nice pool. And I never ever I always just had bad memories of the pool because I would have nightmares of like boiling water in the pool and like these like red eyes like staring out at you, and then like
from the water.
Yeah, and then like these shadow hands would reach out and grab you, and then you'd wake up.
Oh my god!
Wow, that's terrifying.
Yes.
I never had like bad dreams about my house or anything like that.
It was terrifying, and I had that dream like 5 or 6 times, if not more. And I had another scary dream like a lot.
Well, wasn't it
repeated?
Wasn't it in the movie Poltergeist where they at the end she falls in the pool or something, and like there's like skeletons coming out? Because that whole concept was they built on a burial ground, right? Native American burial ground.
Now I had seen Poltergeist, so maybe I was relating or like tying those two together as a kid subconsciously.
Stop that. You're being too skeptical now.
Yeah, I know. But it was still really, really scary. And like sometimes maybe I was just young, but like when I was at the pool and I'd be like, I almost drowned in that pool.
Well, that's the reason
twice.
I have nightmares about it.
I was always just scared of the pool. Like I cut my foot up on it one time, and like I was just like bleeding profusely from the bottom of my foot.
Okay.
But I don't know why. It was just really terrifying.
That's why he had dreams about it.
And then there was another dream that I would have. I've had it a dozen times where like there was this big flight of stairs that went down from my parents' room, and like there was just a wall of glass panes that looked out over the pool. I would float down the stairs like I'm a spirit. Like I don't have to walk down the stairs. I could just float down.
You were astral projecting.
It's nighttime and it's dark and it's like got this orange tint to it. Outside, I see spirits, witches, all flying around this pool in the night. I feel like I see witches like flying on like broomsticks and stuff, and I see like these other spirits all flying around and mingling. And I've got like this one thin glass wall of protection.
Wow.
That's protecting me from all of these like evil spirit things because it just felt malevolent outside.
So I get that we are having a theme here of dreams, and I guess these experiences. Dreams are super weird though, you know, like I've always wondered about that. If even when you dream, is it all just in your subconscious? Is it possible that you're experiencing something from another realm or reality or whatever? Did you have things that happen there while in like, you know, waking hours?
I do know that
preferably 2 p.m. to 5 p.m.
Whenever I was a kid, I didn't want to stay downstairs, like where the pool level was, because there was just like this presence that I didn't like, especially in the room that I grew up in, as like where they kept the crib. I moved to another room down the hall, but like that room specifically was like I never wanted to go in there ever. That in the basement, because the basement was opposite to this room. I did not want to go anywhere near it.
Did your family, like anyone else, have similar feelings about those rooms?
I never really like talked to them about it. But there was like this imagine like this huge like iron door that was like this industrial door that'd be like that would open. Yeah. That's the basement door. So you would go down, and it's like dirt walls, like you're just in dirt walls. That's where the water heater and stuff is, and there's an emergency escape, like you crawl up into it, and it's like a little crawl space under the earth.
Oh yeah.
And it's like one of those emergency bunker things or whatever to crawl out of.
Yeah.
And like down there, I always felt like I could just like feel something in like that dark like tunnel that went under the earth. That just that's why I hated being down there as a kid, and especially during tornadoes. I was like, I'll stay upstairs. I was like, I don't want to be down here.
take my chances with the tornado.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So on the skeptical side of it, did you watch a lot of horror movies? Did you watch things as a kid that would have put these images in your mind?
Not many. I mean, I watched VeggieTales.
Yeah.
But like
those aren't scary.
I had seen Poltergeist because my brother watched it, and I just ended up watching it with his friends one night. But
that one alone would have probably given you a lot of like ammunition for those dreams.
But I felt like I had a lot of that stuff before I had seen that movie.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I guess that's the only thing that to debunk it would be just the idea of having a, because obviously you're creative and have an active imagination, and that's another thing that has always been a problem with for me, like being really scared at night or whatever, because my imagination would just go so wild.
But dude, I was so scared to the point that for maybe 2 years I slept on my parents' couch in their room because I just could not go downstairs at night.
Wow.
I literally could not go down until my younger brother was born, and then I had someone else to be down there too.
Yeah.
That's when I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll go downstairs now.
Wow. So, did you ever see any like physical evidence, or like, was there ever anything that moved? Any like did you ever wake up with scratches on you or something crazy?
Not scratches, but like I always felt like I could, like there would be stuff that felt kind of misplaced, or like I would like hear stuff down there, especially at night. Like that's why I just refused to sleep down there, is because I always like couldn't go to sleep because I would hear stuff.
And I mean, your parents were 6 floors away, so
No, they were
yeah,
Two?
far away.
2 or 3.
Okay. So, well, it sounds like, I mean, there could have been some sort of just some sort of like malevolent force.
It just
or
felt like
something.
an evil place.
Yeah, and it's like, you don't have those feelings anymore, right? You know, you're new when you all moved to a new house. You didn't have those feelings anymore.
No, I actually felt like the house that we moved into afterwards was probably the most refreshing, best memory I've ever had, like, of a place to live at. It was a much smaller house, but I just have such good memories of hanging out in the basement and stuff. And maybe it's because I had grown older, but it just felt like I was not around that stuff anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's creepy.
Definitely is. Do you have any more? Because I was going to say, it seems like you brought it up, like scary movies, and I feel like that always does like a good job of shaping like the fears of your childhood and stuff like that.
Yeah. I was like the biggest scaredy cat in the world when I was a kid, and I still have sort of just leftover almost like trauma from, I guess, watching horror movies too young. And I was already like a really nervous like kid, and just about everything, you know. So when I think that compounded it, and I was so scared of stuff as a kid, and I used to like sleepwalk all the time, which I think sleepwalking is so creepy because that's like, you feel like they're a zombie or something walking around.
Did you ever wake up in a place that wasn't your bed from sleepwalking?
I woke up in the bathtub. Yeah, I think I was trying to turn the water on in my parents' room, and they were like, Mom was like, "What are you doing?" I used to sleepwalk really bad. Thankfully, I never like fell down the stairs once we moved to my parents' house they live in now, because that would have been bad.
Have you ever done it recently, like in your adult life?
No. Thankfully not. Okay, you want to move on?
I have one more story that's my mom's story that I can share.
Let's hear that one.
This one is like really creepy that she told me. So she travels a lot for her work, and so a lot of the time she has to go to London. And so she was in in the district where she was staying was one of the most haunted, like classified haunted places in London.
Jack the Ripper.
It's like that, and it's like that old cobblestone, like creepy London.
Creepy just in the daytime.
So she's staying in a hotel there, and she's watching TV, like TV's on, lights on. She's just chilling in her bed. And then she said that, like, out of nowhere, she felt this force, like these hands on her throat, like pushing her down into the bed, like forcing her down and choking her.
When she's wide awake.
She's wide awake.
Wow.
And, like, she's just watching TV, and out of nowhere, like, this force just, like, starts choking her and pushing her down into the bed. And so she has to, like, she said that, like, she was whispering, or like not whispering, but in her head, like trying to rebuke it, like over and over in her head, trying to rebuke this thing, and eventually it just kind of lifts and goes away. And then like 30 minutes later, she's still watching TV, like recovering from that, and then the door handle starts going like moving back and forth, like trying to get in, but the door's locked, and she sees a shadow under the door, like pacing back and forth because the lights are on out there. So she walks up to the door, looks through the peephole. Nothing is there, but the door handle is still moving while she's looking through, and there's no physical thing there.
Wow, that's really scary.
Yeah. And like, I was like, are you serious?
Did she sleep there?
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't know if I could have gone to sleep.
She got another place the next night because I asked her the same thing, but like she stayed there for the night. But I thought that was like one of the creepiest experiences that she's ever shared.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's a good one because that's stuff where she's awake. She's seeing it. She's seeing a physical object being manipulated by something that's not physically there.
Yeah. Like it was hard to take that all in, but like I definitely trust her word. She seemed like shaking up just remembering it. And I was like,
your mom's not someone who is into like paranormal stuff, right? She's not.
Oh no, she is.
Okay. Well, never mind that theory.
No, she is. She likes that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But
because I was gonna say, because my mom's not into that kind of like she's not someone I think that would be like, oh, I'm
kind of
really,
making it up.
Yeah, or that I'm just like really into like
sensationalizing
researching those things. And
it's not like she actively researches it, but she likes conspiracy theories and supernatural type stuff. Yeah, watches the shows on it. But
what do you guys think about the idea that if you are more like open to that type of thing, that it's easier for something to contact you, or if because you're more like open-minded to it or something, there's this that it almost opens a door.
Yeah, I think there's something to it. Skeptical side, just playing devil's advocate though, I think if you're more open to it, you're more open to kind of look for it or interpret stuff.
If you're looking for it, then I definitely think it can happen.
Yeah.
I think if you just believe it, but you're not going out of your way to like try to find it or whatever, you're not going to have any like serious encounters.
Yeah.
But if you're like, I'm going to go stay overnight at the Annabelle house, then
yeah.
Right.
See, I mean, even skeptical, like I wouldn't do something like that.
Never.
That's just like
never.
No.
Not in a million
And that's what they
years.
say. They say not to engage. That's always the problem. Is like if you start trying to engage something, you're asking for it.
You never invite it.
Yeah.
Like you never taunt it. You never invite it. You simply just exist in the same space if that's something that you're gonna do, according to like the experts.
And that brings me to something that I could talk about, the experience that Carrie had, my wife. I've got a story about her, and then I have several stories about my parents' house that I want to talk about later too. But for Carrie's story, she and her sister went to Savannah, notoriously haunted, supposedly, very old city for America. And they went on a ghost tour, right? And it's at night, very spooky. They take you around. And then, Dahlonega has that. We have a ghost tour in Dahlonega. And so one place that they took them to in particular, they took her upstairs, and I think it was over a bar or something. There's some rooms up above, though. And they had a little bell in the center of the room, right? And I think it's a kind that like dangles.
I've done this tour.
Oh, you have?
Yes.
Okay. And they ask questions, right? And they ask questions of some sort of spirit or ghost in there or whatever. And yes or no questions so that the bell can ring on its own or whatever. And so they're all like, lining the walls. This thing's in the middle, and they ask questions. And all of a sudden it would be like, ding, yes or no, or two dings for no, or whatever it was. She said, and she was like really skeptical though. She was like, I don't know. I mean, somebody could have.
Quick aside, what if it's like a ghost and they're having to clock in? It's like a 9 to 5 for them, and they have to go into work to just ring a bell.
That's hilarious. All these people here. I'm here. Ding.
But it's 9 p.m. to 5 a.m.
Yeah, I work all night. They go home to their ghost family. I'm working for you all night.
Okay, continue.
Okay, so she was really skeptical of that part because she was like, I don't know if there's a way. She started mentioning like magnets or something, right? Where she was like, maybe. And I was like, well, they could have just had a speaker like making the sound. And she was like, what? You could physically see it moving. And then I was like, what? I was like, okay, well, that's a little more believable. She could see it moving. I was like, that's a little harder to pull off. There's people watching it. The only thing I could think of is maybe like a
fish line or something.
No, like a motor type thing on it that could like move it. That seems elaborate, though, for this ghost tour to do, but I don't know. So that part was like, maybe there's a way to debunk it or whatever. They continue the tour, and she ends up splitting off. Her and her sister go with this couple that they
never
just
split
met.
the party.
I know, right?
True.
Horror movie rules here. So they go with this couple that they just met, they don't even know, and the couple has a Ouija board. And Carrie is like terrified of those. She would never use those, like, or try to use a Ouija board.
A Luigi board.
Yeah, Luigi board. But they put it against I'll show you guys a picture, and we can put this on screen, I guess. But this is sort of what it looks like. I don't know if this is the exact one, but it's like outside of like the mausoleum type thing is against the. You could they weren't actually in the graveyard.
So they took the board and rested it against like a mausoleum.
Exactly.
thing?
Yeah. So like it's laying flat. I know that they're asking for it. So it's laying flat, but it's up against this mausoleum, against a giant, very old graveyard. And there's the fence. So they're outside of the graveyard technically, but they're asking questions with a Ouija board, touching an old mausoleum, giant gravestone thing.
Seems like
That's big.
Okay.
Bunch of nope.
So they don't put their hands on the thing physically and touch it, but they ask questions, and they're asking these questions and stuff, and nothing's happening for a few minutes. They keep asking, and then all of a sudden the Ouija board little thing just goes flying like 10 feet, like it flew, like this thing was pissed or something.
It was
right?
trying to sleep.
I just got back from ringing that bell. Why do y'all still want stuff?
Yeah,
from me?
leave me alone. So that's when her and her sister just panicked. They left, but before, I think it might have been right before all that happened, her sister took a picture there. She was using like a point and shoot camera. She takes a picture, and what her sister saw was in nothing's there, but on the screen when it showed the preview popped up, she saw this face with these hands like reaching out at her. She freaks out, drops the camera, hits the ground. After they got really freaked out, panicked, they ran to their hotel room. They're in there just praying because they're so freaked out that they've like invited this demonic spirit or something. So they're literally praying like nonstop. And then they work up the nerve to get out the SD card. They put it into the computer to check it, and like all the pictures are there, and they're flipping through them, and it gets to that file, and it's corrupted. The only one they like wanted to see was corrupted, and they couldn't look at the photo. Granted, she dropped the camera, so that's my skeptical side, but still very creepy.
No. This is why you don't play with Ouija boards.
Yeah.
You don't do this.
Especially putting it up to a mausoleum.
Yeah, and that graveyard, like on the tour, they say this is the most haunted part of Savannah.
Yeah.
They're like, this is the place if you are going to see something.
Yeah.
This is where you'll see it. Why would you do that?
So, yeah, that's pretty scary.
Yeah.
That is terrifying. And granted, if it's just a dead guy just playing a prank, then
Yeah.
on his side, he's like, man, I just got them real good. That was pretty funny.
But
He's like, they dropped their camera. Oops.
But I guess the most inexplicable part is the Ouija board piece flying off the board.
Uh-huh.
That part she
Like,
can't
how
explain.
What
hard
happened
did
to
it fly
the
off?
couple? They just freak out and run.
I guess
too?
they freaked out and ran too, and she was like, it'd be so elaborate if this couple was pranking them, but she was just like, I don't know how it could have been done because they're watching it and they see the little Ouija board thing just fly off.
My only skeptical side, which I doubt, but if they had the shutter open for a really long time, it could have created like a spectral look. But
if it's the point and shoot,
of the picture,
yeah, I guess
yeah.
if it's point and shoot, then you couldn't really do
it's
that.
on auto.
Yeah, no.
And now I think Christy's the only one that saw that. She's the only one that saw Carrie's sister's the only one that saw the spirit in the camera or whatever. But she's the one person I know that's like very intuitive to things, and like she'll have dreams of things and then they end up happening later and stuff like that. So I feel like if something was going to contact them, it would be to her.
That story gave me chills.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like what I didn't like about every ghost tour I've done is and it's not like what Christy experienced, but they always go like you take these photos and then if you see a orb, it's a ghost, and I'm like, no, that's just the way the light at night with a flash
like
camera.
a flare or something.
The orb stuff is always so annoying because we know how cameras work.
Yeah.
And you're going to get those
Anywhere.
If you get a piece of dust floating by the lens, it's just
Uh-huh.
very easy to get what they call orbs on camera. Often we're trying to get them for a lens flare look or something. They're like, J.J. Abrams has found so many ghosts.
Do you think that jail we filmed in Lawrenceville was haunted for encounters?
Oh, it could have been.
Maybe they locked us in.
I don't know, because like,
I think that was Chase.
yeah. I think he was just cracking the door and then it just locked.
Well, yeah, I've been on the one here in Dahlonega, but it was fun and like spooky, but it wasn't super scary. But now they've told us stories about the Crimson Moon that were very scary. mostly everyone who works there has seen this ghost that like lives upstairs, and there's supposedly a little girl too, and a guy, this older guy. I think he had a top hat and stuff.
Yeah.
And people have described seeing him, and he doesn't have any like legs. He's just the top part of him. And like multiple people who work there have seen this, and they're people who are not ghost believers at all. And they've told like the manager or whoever, and they're like all like scared to close up at night by themselves and stuff like that. And Brad lives right next to it.
You should open your window one day and look in the window, and he's just looking back at you. You're like,
If anything, I don't like that ghost. It sets off the alarm all the time.
I know, yeah, me too.
It's either that or the street cats.
When I lived there, I was always so scared of looking out the window at night into the Crimson Moon, because it was just
I would just keep
creepy.
the windows closed all night.
Yeah,
I'd be like, nope.
I typically do.
Okay, so let's see, what else do I have here? That's almost all of it, except for I'll talk about my parents' house a little bit that I grew up in most of my life. They've had so many things that happen that just feel really creepy. Most of us in the family have had something weird happen, I guess. I spent a lot of time in the basement, because my band, we would practice down there or whatever. I remember one time our drummer Taylor was in the other room. He comes running in, like literally screaming, panicking, because he saw something out of the corner of his eye, and he described it was like this girl, I guess like sitting next to him or something. Freaks out, he runs in, and then that was in the daytime. He saw something really spooky, freaked him out. I remember sleeping down there, and would wake up, and the lamp would be turned on for some reason, and no, everyone would like swear they didn't turn it on or whatever, but it would just be on by itself. One of the
it was set to a timer. They just never knew.
They do have, my parents do have a lot of those in their house, but not in the basement. I guess I'll try to go chronologically here. I guess as a kid I would be filming, all the time in the house, and I remember filming one time, filming my dog, because my dog was often my subject, Chewy, I think, Chewbacca. And then I'm filming, and on camera you hear this door just slam in the other room. The basement door just slammed shut. When I was growing up, we remodeled the basement, or started to finish the basement, I guess I'd say. And we got these doors that were really cheap, and that's because they came out of this like old, literally from what I was told, it was like some sort of mental institution, like a mental health place or whatever. But the doors were from there. They basically just got new doors, I guess, and they got rid of them or something.
That's a perfect horror movie plot.
I know.
It's like, we're bringing in these haunted items into our house because
my dad got a good deal.
Yeah,
no. My dad got a really good deal.
It's such a great inciting incident.
Just pay the money.
Yeah, get new doors. But these were old used doors. They were really creepy because they had these like handprints on them, which I'm assuming, I know, but skeptically I'm assuming they were just like the guys who loaded them or something, because there was a lot of dust on them. But they had these like handprints that were so creepy, and we painted them. They were old, like pretty old doors, because they had the glass, like individual panes of glass, I think, or whatever. Instead of now you have inserts that go over, so they were pretty old doors. And I don't know if maybe the weird stuff kind of started happening once those were put in there, because this was a new house my parents built. Was no like former people who lived there or died there or anything crazy like that. So we had the doors, had lots of, in the basement we'd always be like freaked out, certain things happening. My parents, we would all see things out of the corner of our eyes a lot. See like what my sister swears is like these shadow people or whatever. Just they would walk by. We'd be sitting in there in the den, and something would just go by all the time, and it seemed like just a shadow. And then I think I told y'all this one time because we made a joke. I think it was on the podcast, but my friend Steven and I were hanging out. My parents were gone one night, and it was a weeknight, like a school night, and we're hanging out in, I think, the den or the living room, and in the what we call the TV room, it was kind of like a study. The TV, the sound came on just blaring so loud. One of those, old, what are they called? Like an amplifier thing that you have, and like the big volume knob on the front.
It's like Back to the Future.
Well,
you just shot.
Yeah. But it didn't come up. It came on instantly, and it was Ricky Martin, like blaring on MTV, so loud.
That would be freaky.
Like "Living La Vida Loca," like so loud, dude. I mean, turned like all the way up, and I was like, "How did this come on?" Like, I don't know what would have triggered that, or how the volume knob got turned like all the way up, basically.
Technology does that though.
Yeah.
Sometimes, because like my computer at home at like 3 a.m. completely shut off will just turn on, and I'll hear it start to wind up. The fans wind up. I'll be sleeping and I'll be like, "What?"
Yeah.
I'll look over and the computer's like, and then like the screens will turn on. I'm like, ah.
Okay, and that was my kind of like skeptical thing. Like, okay, maybe it's some sort of weird power surge.
That's
or something.
it can happen.
But it was so creepy because we ran in there and we were like frantically trying to hit buttons to turn it off, and afterwards we were like just so scared. We're by ourselves. I'm glad he was there with me, or I would have been alone. That would have been super terrifying.
That reminds me of one time at my brother's old apartment, we were watching just a bunch of old music videos, and we played Jeremy by Pearl Jam, and then it got like, we tried changing it, and it kept on going back to Jeremy and replaying it, and we're like, did we just set up like
the ghost name is Jeremy?
Oh my gosh.
And he has spoken.
So I remember one time I was like sleeping in that TV room, and I don't think I woke up, but I felt like something just choking me like while I was asleep, and I couldn't breathe. I was like fighting it off, basically. It just felt like all this pressure on my body and my chest and everything. So I also at this time played a prank when I was about this age. This was when I learned the power of like I guess photo editing, and I was using paint, and there was a photo of we took a photo or something of my living room that looked out onto the front balcony thing, the terrace or whatever. And this is so early on with computers, I'd figured out they're like, oh, I could like get this photo scanned in or something, and I had it in Paint, Microsoft Paint or whatever, and I was like, oh, I could like do stuff to it, and I figured out how to use the little paintbrush if I do it make like little things, and I painted what looked like a ghostly face in there, and then I think I printed it, but I showed it to everyone, and I never told them that I did that. And they were like, "What?" They were so freaked out, and it was like such a silly prank. But I think
Amazing.
I wonder if maybe I eventually told them or whatever. But then there was some people, like a friend of the family, who's like really into that stuff. He was like, "Wow, that you definitely have a ghost here," you know. And so I don't know. Maybe I invited the ghost in.
Your mom a lot of grief with that one.
Yeah. So that was pretty funny. But then years later, obviously my nephew is born. He starts to get old enough to talk and everything. He hangs out at my parents' store all the time, which is where my sister and I grew up too, you know, hanging out there. And when they're watching him for my sister, when people would come in, he understood they were a customer. They talked about these customers all the time at their store. One day, they're at their house, sitting there hanging out, and Jack, my nephew, looks over and he's like, "Nana, there's a customer," pointing at the doorway like where there's nobody. "Nana, there's a customer." And she's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, there's a customer. And he keeps saying that, and it freaks them out so bad. So we started calling it that, like if there was a ghost, we thought of ghosts as calling them customers. Yeah.
No.
That's funny.
And then more years pass. My niece is born. She gets old enough to talk and everything. She sees something that just mortifies her. She starts screaming. Same area. It's over by this like antique piece that my grandmother had bought at a yard sale, I think. So I don't know if something's attached to that piece, but she starts pointing and screaming, like inexplicably, like crying, pointing at it. I can't remember if she was saying stuff, but it was really creepy. Just keeps pointing at this area where nothing's there, crying and screaming. And like when I was talking to my mom yesterday, she was like, "I swear there's like something going on in our house, you know?" And I was like, "Wow, that is very creepy."
I just find it hard to just live in a place where you know that stuff like that's going on. It's like, I would move. I have two more stories that were scary to share that I just remembered.
Cool.
Okay.
So back when I was a kid, I'd stay at my friend's house, and what we would do is in the garage, we would set up a tent because we wanted to camp, but we didn't camp outside because usually it was cold because his birthday was later on in the year. So we would like set up this camp. We'd all get like a new Pokemon game or something, and we'd all like hang out and play. Well, one time I was like, I'm going to stay up all night. Like that was my goal. Mm-hmm. And so eventually everyone else passes out, and it's like just me in the garage, and it's like, I don't know, like 2 or something like that or whatever. And then like all of a sudden the garage door goes like crazy, and I'm like what the
Whoa.
And so I'm like, Spencer, I'm like, wake him up or whatever, and I was like, dude, your garage door just like, and so we like grabbed some flashlights and we like went outside or whatever to like go check outside, and like we couldn't, like, it's a just chill night, no wind or anything, it's like perfectly calm, and we're like going around with flashlights and we just can't find out what it was, but it really was like super freaky because the door just like violently like shaked.
You didn't have any pets?
No, well, He did, but they were like indoor, and they were inside the house.
Gotcha.
And this garage door, the other side was the outside, right? What
Yeah.
you're talking about. So,
Okay.
So we literally went outside and went around with flashlights, and we were looking out in like the woods and stuff because
and
we
was
lived in the woods.
It was a calm night, no
yeah,
wind.
no wind,
Wow.
and it was like super freaky.
Maybe it was a kid pranking you guys. He runs
Maybe.
by, I wasn't invited.
He's like, God.
Let me in.
Another time, and this one isn't. It's scary, but it wasn't like a ghost. I was at my other friend's house, and we were spending the night, and one of his dogs got out and ran into the woods at night or whatever. So we all had flashlights, and we were all going around in the woods looking for this dog. And the house, like, I'm pretty far into their grass now, looking around or whatever. And I like turn my flashlight, and these two eyes glare back at me, and I'm just like, oh, I found the dog. And I looked back at the house, and the dog was back with like the owner of the house, and I was like,
No.
I like backed up slowly. I was like, no.
That is a total horror movie moment.
I was like, no, dude.
That is,
Nuh-uh.
I love those moments in horror movies because it'll be like, oh, yeah, it's right over here. And then they look back and they're like, what? And it's the person they were looking
Yeah.
for or something is over there. And they're like, turn around. It's
Yeah.
a monster.
No, I'm pretty sure it was like a coyote or something, but I was like, dude, I was like
At least you didn't
12
bring it with
12
you.
or 13 or something.
He shows up with a coyote.
Hey,
I
I
found the
found
dog.
I think I was just big enough for it not to attack me, but it was
Wow.
really freaky because it was like
Dingo ate my baby.
Brad is the thing. That's how far away
Right.
it was, like right there. And I was like, no, dude.
Well, we've done a whole hour on ghost stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess we should probably wrap it up. I don't know if we have time to go into scary movies anymore.
No. Next
But
episode.
Next time.
Yeah, maybe next episode, since we're still leading up to Halloween, we can talk about our favorite horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
Let's do it.
Awesome.
All right, well, now that we've scarred you guys for life, I hope you weren't listening to this late at night.
Let us know if you have
I
any
hope you
ghost
were.
stories.
Yes, please do.
Type them in the YouTube comments.
Yeah.
You know, follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and if you want to be a patron, subscribe, join the Friends from Film School Patreon page,
Yeah.
and donate.
We should shout out our patron, Shane Smith.
Shout out to Shane Smith.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you, Shane.
if you guys want to be cool like him, it would be super helpful. We'd very much appreciate it. It'll help us to keep making this crazy podcast. We hope you're enjoying it, and we'll keep trying to come up with stuff to talk about.
Yeah. Catch you next time.
See ya.
I traveled the countryside searching for hope. I was met with torches and a swinging rope. An angry mob